All right. So, I've got you, Evan.
Yep.
Hey there. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well myself. Welcome to the show. We've got a modest watching viewer base right now. I've asked them to prepare some questions, and I will hopefully be able to facilitate some Q&A here. It'd be
What have you? What did I miss? What have we done so far?
so far we have played some Lemma. It's a pretty good game.
Okay.
Um, I'm I'm embarrassed to say I've played it once at GDEX, but I had not played it otherwise before today.
Wow.
So you'll have to forgive me.
Totally
However,
fine.
I have
Nothing to
bought
worry
it for
about.
my friends on numerous occasions in the past.
Oh my gosh.
So I have a habit of buying games for people and without playing them myself, just because I know they're going to be good. So that was the case here.
That's pretty risque. I have to say.
I like to think that I've got a good enough judgment these days. So we'll see if that's true or not. All right. Well, lo and behold, in the flesh, we're going to turn on the other TV. It's a picture of Evan, because we're going to figure out a video it's perhaps next time. But for now, you can see the man stretched across that display.
Sorry
I
about that. Yeah.
did my
Windows
best.
10, I think, broke everything.
Oh, I know how it is. We were streaming earlier and things just cut. Everything cut out. It was the worst. I'm sitting there trying to scramble in chat
Blue
to get
screen?
things going. No, that's the worst part. Things just everything seemed to be working, but nothing was going through. I hit 0 KBS and just praying and crying at that point. But that's what makes a good stream. You like to be able to show emotion. People need to know you're real.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those of you who don't know, Evan Todd is the developer behind Lemma and Deceiver. I booted up Deceiver and I realize it's not Deceiver anymore.
Yes. No, it actually is, and that is entirely thanks to you and your crew.
Oh no, we can do that shortly here. Uh, Deceiver is a game about crabs that fire lasers. That's at least how Matt Trowbridge, our sound designer, described it. It appears that
It's
the
pretty
name
accurate.
stuck very well. We'll pull that up here right now. Just get in the background because it's a nice. Wow, it works well with the purple background. It's like I planned this. I did not. So, without further ado, thank you for joining
This is
us for
the
some
lounge. Wow.
The Lounge. How smooth.
Yeah,
How
really.
creative. We'll work on the branding later, but thank you for joining us for some Q&A. And if you're in the chat right now, and if you've got some questions for Evan as a developer, please feel free to post them, and we will make sure that they're asked. In the meantime, let's start off with
This
this.
this lounge is very nice. I feel very relaxed.
Thank you. I was worried that the the cathode ray tube would be a little cramped, but as long as you're comfortable, then I feel like we're doing all we can for our guests.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first question, the question I always like to ask game developers when I get the chance is, how did you get into games? Development specifically.
Good question. Um, I started my first game ever. I was like 9 years old, and I had been making websites with
Mhm.
HTML on a Power Mac 6500, which was like 200 megahertz, and like it was running like Netscape 4.0.
Oh
and
gosh.
and I got a book from the library that was explaining how to do websites, and so I had made a website, and then I found out about JavaScript, which lets you change things on a website, and I thought, oh man, I could make a game out of this if I just make like an HTML table,
Hmm.
like an HTML table of cells, and each cell, if I put an image inside each cell, and then I just had some JavaScript to change what the images were, what the URLs of the images were, I was like, I could totally make a game, and that's exactly what I did. And it was called Ninja Wars.
Are we talking an action game, a strategy game?
It was a multiplayer, two people against each other, and you basically. Fun fact: so the computer was so slow that basically I figured out a way to have people shoot at each other, and what I did was I just did a for loop, and I just had it change the the there I had I drew a picture of a sword, and I had this sword basically move up as fast as possible, move upwards towards the enemy player until it hit something, and then it would do damage, right?
Okay.
But the computer was so slow. Like a normal computer should do that instantly, but this computer was so slow that it actually worked. You could actually see the animation happening, and so it looked like a cool thing. Like it was so funny.
Oh man, that makes me think
so
of games that were like built around their frame rate. What
exactly.
was
It was a lot like an emulator, where like the timing is so important. Because then I tried to like show my friends. I was so proud, and I was like, "Look, pull this up on your computer," and they were like, "It doesn't work," because they couldn't see the sword at all.
Because just technology had advanced, and
yeah, yeah, they had actual computers.
The sword throwers, they got better at throwing.
Right. So yeah. Are we allowed to ask questions back? I'm curious what your first game was.
Sure, yeah. Oh man, no, I'm on the spot. Let's see. I started making campaigns in StarCraft, I think, because that was my first video-style game. StarCraft was big, and my father introduced me. We had one CD, so they let you install spawns to play multiplayer with people. And I was really bad at StarCraft. I loved use map settings maps, and the use map settings were the ones that had events. They were just like a scenario, like a single-player scenario that you could play with other people, or on your own, I guess. And I was so interested in that, so I drew up maps in their level editor. I tried to learn how to do the trigger programming in StarCraft. It was primitive, but it was a blast. I used to make maps where one unit would like have a routine. They would walk here, they would fight through some enemies here, then they would hop on a dropship and fly back to the beginning and do it again. So you could like catch them on their route and interact with them in a way, help them fight off the enemies faster so they get home faster and do it again. But I wanted to create a living, breathing world, and that was kind of the start for me. And then it was Flash animation, action script, and lots of level editors. It wasn't, as Round here is mentioning Neopets. He's a little concerned that you created Neopets. And
yeah,
Neopets,
not the case, unfortunately.
If it's still going to this day,
yeah,
I feel like I should have invested on the ground floor back when I was young. But
yeah, they're probably like valuable, like Beanie Babies or something, right?
I guess they've got a premium currency now, so they've moved on to microtransactions.
Oh boy.
Just trying to get all that 13-year-old parents' money, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably my start doing levels in StarCraft.
Wow, that's awesome. It sounds a lot like the Homestar Runner people. They just kind of were messing around in Flash and stuff. Similar story.
I was what was it? I think I was halfway through high school before a friend of mine introduced me to Homestar Runner.
So good.
I was so glad I caught it before the emails stopped being regular. So you were waiting each week to see what Strong Bad would answer next.
Yeah.
If you guys in chat aren't familiar with Homestar Runner, it's a charming Flash website that you could watch really inane things for hours. I posted a link in chat if anyone's interested. It's very charming and a little inane.
Still going.
Yeah,
they were my fan.
When do they always make one on April Fools at least, and Halloween they still make one. But those brothers Chap are are busy people these days. They've been working on shows, I think.
Really?
It was Yo Gabba Gabba for sure. Something else on Cartoon Network right now. But how cool. They did this as a hobby. They didn't really, I'm sure they sold some merchandise, but now it's become a career in animation and stuff.
It's awesome. They are living the dream.
Truly. And hey, chat, if you've got any questions for Evan or myself, I guess, you can ask me anytime. I stream quite a bit. We've got the Discord, but specifically for Evan, please post them now. We'd be happy to discuss. Or post the panel, I guess, if that's what we are. So let's see. So web development. How early did you get into programming? And what do you think influenced that?
I remember, yeah, I started when I was like 9 years old. I remember getting a computer, and I was just like so excited, and yeah, it was really really nerdy. Like I don't know, I just always wanted to do it and never not wanted to program. So I kind of got lucky. Like I feel bad that some people really struggle to find the thing that they're really interested in, and I just like had it dropped in my lap. I pretty much knew from the beginning. I kind of started out with like robotics. So like, did you ever do like Lego Mindstorms and stuff?
Yeah, Mindstorms were fantastic.
Okay, yeah, that's how I started with Legos, and then eventually went to robotics, and then tried to build robots and try to do stuff, and then eventually realized I'm completely useless with my hands and like building things. I can't do anything, and just got more and more interested in the software side of things. So yeah, I think it's really just like the thing with programming is that it's like a it's very it's like a power trip, right? You're creating things out of nothing, right?
Right.
So with me, like someone who wanted to like build robots, but they ended up not turning out great, or I couldn't, the real world is so much more difficult than like the computers. Like 2 + 2 is always 4 in the computer, but in the real world, like it's actually 4.0001. Like everything breaks and everything wears out, and it's not quite exact. And so a lot of times, especially with robotics, like it's such a pain and nothing works out the way that you want it to. But I found that with computers, it was like, wow, I type a thing and then it happens. Like, this is awesome. And so I think every programmer has a little bit of a god complex in them.
I feel it. I'm totally like that. I remember from a young age saying I want to build worlds. And programming and art, and specifically game development, means all of a sudden you've got a world that you control. So with Bombfest, I've got cheat codes in for just that reason. If we want big head mode, you've got big head mode. You just type in something, or any other stupid thing I've got. There's a code in there right now where you type it in, the computers, instead of walking where they want to go, they teleport where they think they want to be. So they teleport to a bomb, they pick it up, they teleport to you, and they drop it, and they teleport to another one. And
That's awesome.
They get themselves killed more often than they accomplish their goals, but it's still just silly stuff you can do in games that you'd never be able to do in real life.
Yeah, it's the ultimate freedom. You can do anything you want.
Man, we got a question from a round around here. What is the workflow for yourself as an individual developer, and how do you keep yourself organized and on track?
Ooh, that is a good question. I'm assuming round around you're also an individual developer, or yeah, as a solo. I would say basically what I did was I had a Word document, a Google Doc actually, and it had, I have a list of current tasks, and then I have all of, pretty much anytime I think of something and I want to remember it, I write it in this document, and then later I go back and kind of rearrange and organize. And so the thing with game development is that I started out as a hobbyist and just doing things for fun, but when I went full-time indie, you have to transition to, the thing that you want to do right now is not necessarily the thing that is actually good for business and the game itself. And so you have to kind of focus and do things that you don't want to do. Yeah, so it kind of gets harder. I have this analogy with game development. When you switch from hobby to pro game development, it's kind of like switching from bricklaying to sculpting. Because when you're a hobbyist, you're like laying bricks. You're like, oh, I'm gonna add this little thing, and then oh, I found this particle effect on the asset store. Like I'll drop that in. That's cool. And then you just kind of drop in these little bricks for like 10 years until finally you're like, all right, it's done. Whereas like professional indie development is more like, okay, I have X number of dollars and X number of years of my life, and you start out with everything. You start out with a big block of marble, and you have to chisel it away until you're left with something that is hopefully good. And so you can't just kind of build haphazardly. You have to know exactly what the whole plan is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very hard, and I'm not very good at it. But yeah.
You and me both.
Good question.
We've got a question here from Matched Ocean. Where do you think you guys would be if not for game developers?
Ooh, question. You go first. I've been talking a lot.
All right, let's see here. Where would I be if not for a game developer? I thought about this more than I'd like to, because as far as game development's concerned, I'm hoping to be a professional game developer in the industry, and if that falls through, I've got my backup plan, which is probably what I'd be if I weren't a game developer, and that's a software engineer at a company somewhere that is looking for some creativity, some design, as well as some software skills. But if it weren't that, that's a wonderful question. Let's see. I like dancing, but I'm not good at it. I just enjoy it. Either teaching or entertaining, I think. Maybe entertaining in some way, because I really like making people happy, making people laugh. It's part of the reason I enjoy being in front of people and hyping people up during games. Other than that, it'd be teaching. I love just encouraging people and communicating ideas in a way that makes it easy to learn things. So if it's not software development, which would be
those are very different things.
Oh man, but I feel like the teacher that's entertaining though, like think back to your favorite teacher, and that was the guy or the girl that could make you laugh. That's at least for me. That's what it was.
I full-heartedly disagree.
What would you say?
My favorite teacher was a guy who he just knew so much, and he'd never, like, he would have an agenda, but he wouldn't really follow it. He basically would be like, here's a thing I've been reading. I just read this book about Abraham Lincoln, and we're going to talk about Lincoln for the next week. Like it was like he's a scholar who just reads because that's what he does, and you basically sit there and get a window into his brain for an hour, and that was it. Like, have you ever listened to John Carmack?
I have not. I'm familiar with him, but I haven't listened to him.
Okay, yeah, he does these. Occasionally, he does these keynotes at like Oculus, whatever, their developer conference or whatever, and it is so wonderful. Like, you don't even specifically get necessarily like specific information out of it. Like, boy, this is going to be useful in my career. It's just like you just sit there and listen to him, and he just dumps. Like, he seems like he doesn't even prepare. He just kind of stands up and just talks about like stuff he's been thinking about. He's just like, yeah, but it's all so interesting and so fascinating because he's such a smart guy. And so it's like anyone else does this, it would just be super boring. But it's John Carmack, so you're like enraptured.
It almost sounds like the appeal then is getting a sight into someone's mind, then that makes a good teacher. Being able to pick their brain of someone who's just got a wealth of experiences or knowledge or interests.
That's my idea. I mean, obviously, like you say, I think it's different, and absolutely, entertaining teachers are fantastic also. But yeah, I enjoy it because the thing that you can't get out of a textbook is context, and um, when you sit there and just listen to someone just blab about what they think, like they are putting things together. They have all this source material, and they're making these connections, and you get to see that happen. So yeah, I don't know.
Cool. Yeah.
Would you ever consider like doing stand up?
Oh no, I can't do
No.
stand up. I
Okay. You said entertaining, so I don't know.
I or we'll get back to the question in just a second here, Match. No worries. Crud. I I don't think I could do stand up. I'm not scripted. I would do improv for sure. And it's something that I thoroughly enjoy. I got to see Whose Line Is It Anyway live a couple of months ago. It was incredible. But
Is that still going? That's amazing.
it sure is with Aisha Tyler instead of Drew Carey. And they do a good job. They do a good job still. But yeah, it's still a blast. I remember looking them up on YouTube, like searching one of the games and then just watching clip after clip, hundreds of episodes together. Good times.
It's good stuff.
Well, let's see here. Back to the question is, so where would you be if you weren't a game developer, Evan?
Oh, well, that's funny because I'm actually there right now. uh, yeah, I'm working for a small startup, and yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm kind of I'm not officially full-time indie anymore, and I'm very thankful for that because I if I had gone, like, I definitely could not be working for like a big corporation right now. I just too much of a control freak for that, and so glad to be in a startup where I can have a great impact on the final product, and we as a company, like, we all hopped into an SUV and drove like 3 hours to talk to a customer, and on the way, like, we were all just talking, and like I kind of mentioned something, and that ended up being a huge part of like what we worked on for the next month. So stuff like that, you can't really have that when you're working for a large corporation. So I'm very, very thankful to be in that situation. But also, I was so burnt out on game development in general, just commercial game development, that I couldn't work on games. Like, I had the opportunity actually in March to get a job at a AAA game studio or something, and I decided not to because I was just so done with commercial game dev. I think I'm kind of in a very dark place right now with game dev, so I'm not the best person to be talking to, but like, it's very much a conflict, because you've got, people make games because, I always say, it's a disease, right? I don't know if this is how you are, but we can't not make games, and we have this like creative drive to make games, and we just want to see this creation made and in the world, and people enjoying it. And then on the other hand, you have all these external driving factors, like I would like this game to be a success, and I need to market it, and I need people to play it, and it needs to be streamable, and I need to do all this stuff, and those goals are orthogonal. They're very, very different from each other, and in a very small number of cases, they line up perfectly. It just so happens that the advice is always like, make the game that you want to play. Well, a lot of times the game that you want to play doesn't actually sell very well, and so it's such a small number of cases where someone makes a game that they want to play, and it also happens to be super popular at the moment, like PUBG, for example. it's but you don't even know beforehand whether it is going to be popular or not. So I just kind of got tired of not tired, but I was burnt out by the conflict there of like trying to achieve two things at once. Um, Sorry, that was a big rant, but yeah. So I'm working in a startup now.
Hmm. Man. Well, I totally feel what you're saying. Like the disease is definitely a thing. I have
Yes, it is.
the disease of the creator. I try and take days off sometimes, and I'll sit down and I'll like try and watch TV or play a game all day, and there's
Can't do it.
something about it. You cannot do it. I'll go to bed so unhappy, and I'll wake up drained, as if I don't know, I've been lifting boxes all day. It's just when you've got it, you have to do it. And I've been
Yep.
teaching myself, work on something that isn't Bombfest. Like find a prototype, do something creative, make something, or else
Yeah.
you're not
Wait,
gonna be
are
happy.
you working on prototypes?
I do have a few prototypes coming together right now. They aren't worth showing. I have some
Oh, of
pictures on
course they
Twitter.
are.
We've got a couple that I want to make into big time games sometime. So I don't want to get too out there, but
Yeah.
it's
See, that's what I'm into now. Is like I want to get into like small prototypes because the small games that I've made have been, I think, the most successful because it just forces you to just throw everything out. And like so many people ask me like, oh, how do you work on a game for 5 years? And it's like, it's easy. Like that's my default is working on a game for 5 years. And I like it's way harder to work on a game for like 2 weeks.
mhm.
Because you gotta have so much discipline. Like I say, with the hobbyist, you're just laying bricks. You just keep adding stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff, and that's kind of a default way to go. And it's so much harder to be like, all right, I have 2 weeks. What can I do in that time? And to constantly pull yourself back on the track
Mm.
and and stay focused on a small product. So I would like to join you and do prototypes like you're doing. I mean, I think that's really the way to go.
We should do it sometime, and if that means working together in prototype sometime, I'm down for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll be in talks. Um, and
Sure.
you mentioned a bit there the drain of the industry, and um, I recently Bombfest has signed a deal with a publisher, and they're on a
Wait, did
smaller
I know
side.
this?
Sorry,
Did I know this? Did you tell me this?
I don't know if you know this or
Oh
not, but
my gosh!
we're working with Whitethorn Digital, which is a small group in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I can only say good things about them because they've only got good things to say, and I'm contractually obligated to do so. No, I really enjoy them. I actually don't have anything to say against them because they've been a big blessing to our team and the game itself. What I'm getting at though is all of a sudden I'm working with an industry professional who's like, "Have you done these 10 things?" And I say, "I've done 2." He says, "Here's the 6 you need to do tonight, and then here's the 2 more you got to do tomorrow morning. Get them done." And it's something else because so far Bombfest has been laying bricks, even though I've been commercially pursuing it, because I've known as much as I've known and done the best I can. And all of a sudden, I've got this base of knowledge that's saying, here are 100 things you didn't know. I'll explain why if you want to know why, but you need to do them. And I get so overwhelmed. Like today, I had to send material to a company that's doing a video. 2 different companies doing videos. I had to send a bunch of emails. I need to make a phone call to a carpenter, of all things, and I have to make the game too.
Yeah.
And it's killing me. I know that I'm gonna have gray hair after this, but
Oh yeah. That's the quote of the stream. It's killing me.
it's killing
And
me.
that's game dev. It's killing me. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
We'll see after this if I can do another one. Even if Bombfest goes well, if I'll have the strength. But
Yeah, the average. I was just reading the average career in game dev lasts about 5 years, and I lasted 4 years.
oh no, I'm already halfway through that. What am I
Yeah,
gonna do? Well,
yeah, it's a challenge.
I've got some options, but I'll, I'll just do them on the side maybe, because you gotta scratch that itch.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is like you're saying, like you need a creative outlet. And if you don't have that, like sometimes you just feel like sometimes I think like, man, how like you have a weekend, you have nothing to do. Like
Mm,
I always like some. Oh, here's the thing that maybe you can identify with. Like
mm,
some people, like they'll complain about like being bored. I don't think I can remember a time in my life of being bored because you always have something that you're working on. It's like
mm,
I can go right now and like accomplish something, you know, interesting. Uh, I don't know if you can identify with that.
mm. Oh, totally. There's always something.
Yeah,
I remember getting to points with Bombfest where I'd have a build and it'd be building, or I'd have a show and I'd be all prepared for it and I'd sit down and be bored. But at this point where I realize how much needs to be done to release a thing, there's no such thing. There's always record more videos, make more GIFs. It's work on polish. It's just polish. It's
right,
walk against every wall of your level just to make sure you can't walk through it again. It's oh man, there's no such thing as bored. That's not always a good thing, but in a lot of
right,
cases, it's not a bad thing.
right. I'll say like game dev oftentimes does involve a lot of boredom and like tedium.
Mm.
Like especially if you're, I used to work on mobile games and oh man, everything in mobile games is bad, but you have to integrate all these ad frameworks and you have to integrate these push notifications and all this stuff and it's the same thing over and over and all this stuff and so I think game dev does have a lot of that of like and people don't really realize how much of that there is of like doing the same thing over and over
Mm.
but that's usually not too bothersome like people usually you're like this is going to be worth it because I know what the end goal is I'm going to push through the boring parts. But like, I guess I was just meaning like, if at any moment you have a free weekend and no one's around, all your friends are gone or something, and you're just by yourself in a room,
Mm.
like I can't understand the concept of getting bored because it'd be like, well, heck, I'll create something, I'll mess with something, come up with an idea in 5 minutes.